welcome to Finextra. I'm Emily Horler and I'm here with Kwiatkowski and Paul Curry from Misys. And we're at Cybos 2016 in Geneva. Thank you both for joining me.
Hi Emily.
All right, nice to see you.
You recently hosted a roundtable with Finextra and a number of leading transaction bankers and digital leaders on the impact of PSD2, the Internet of Things, and digitalisation on the future of corporate banking. What were the key takeaways from the roundtable, and should banks and vendors be taking these future themes seriously today?
I think the key takeaways from our perspective were, on one level, Internet of Things is being talked about but perhaps isn't being clearly defined. Whenever we come to Cybos, the discussions quickly get to the fact that the Internet of Things seems to be about the kind of connected fridge. Of course, it's much, much more than that. And the discussion yesterday sort of gave perhaps some details around what IoT can really do. So from a sort of a vendor standpoint, it was interesting to hear what banks are thinking about with relation to things like the supply chain and where IoT and adding sensors can actually make a difference. It could make a difference from the perspective of being more efficient, to improve payments, to improve logistics and those kind of things. But really beyond that, I think it was all about data. The value of information is something which banks need to extract, so do their clients, and what we heard in the roundtable was the fact that data and some of its opportunities and also some of its drawbacks around things like cybersecurity are giving banks some challenges. And in all honesty, everyone's got a very different starting point. There are some banks who have really grasped the idea of open data around big data and analytics and are really running with that theme right now. And other banks who are very honest to say that actually we're still in a world dominated by spreadsheets, a world where we're not sharing enough data amongst ourselves, and actually we know where we need to get to, but all of these new things like, again, open banking standards, open APIs, the impact of PSD2, IoT, the famous topic of blockchain, that came up as well. All these things are things that banks know they need to do, but their starting point is quite a challenge for them.
Paul, do you think companies have properly assessed the end-to-end challenges of a real-time and open banking-enabled world? And what do you think service providers should be doing to help get there?
Well, I think some are doing better than others, but I reckon all of them are challenged to an extent that they tend to adopt a strategy of looking at one problem at a time. We see this a lot, and what they really need to be doing is actually understanding the links between those factors. And when they look at the services that a service provider puts forward for them or delivers, they need to factor in an end-to-end solution, because these things like real-time, PSD2, they hit every point of the value chain, and it's very easy to go and build a point solution. A lot of the people did that with SEPA. They went and fixed SEPA credit transfers but didn't worry about SEPA direct debits or put in just transformation mappings in to do it, and then got left with a solution that didn't really scale and didn't grow. So what they really need to do is understand that open APIs really requires real-time data. And real-time data is a lot more than real-time payments. Real-time payment is the fulfillment of it, but actually you've got to wrap around that all of the richness of data. And this means that people who are going to be proposing open APIs, PISPs and access to account solutions will actually have a depth to it. And they'll actually be able to deliver service much broader than just real-time fulfillment of the payment.
There are strong links between PSD2, open banking and real-time enablement. What are the pragmatic steps banks can take on the road to holistic strategies to tackle the full breadth of changes impacting the industry?
All those things breed complexity, but there are probably some simple steps to do at the beginning. One of which is take ownership. And that begins with identifying who is going to own it. Is it owned by compliance? Is it going to be owned by a member of the C-suite? It could be right at the very top of the bank, but more likely perhaps a CIO type function. So find an owner. Look at all of these things, again, holistically, which is, these are different challenges, but they're all nuanced, and yet they all have some points of intersection. It's not enough, and I think, as Paul says, some of the things that were done before with SEPA around, they got one part built quite quickly and something else took much longer. So learn the lessons of some of these previous initiatives that have perhaps caused some pain, but also think about how you can do things differently. So is it all around building, or actually should you be buying? Should you be looking to work collaboratively in this economy that says that actually we don't need to figure this all out as individuals? Perhaps there's an opportunity to come together for the industry to share some knowledge. if you look at PSD2, its timescales are quite aggressive. Now we're looking at January 2018. Now whether that date slips further out, we can't say yet, but it's something which right now in September, or the end of September 2016, we don't have the luxury of a lot of time. So I think it's do the simple things and do them well. Find an owner, identify the lessons learned from some of these previous initiatives, have a really full understanding about what the impact of open banking really is going to be. Get involved in some of the working groups that are going on. So if banks aren't a member of BIAN today, Misys joined BIAN earlier this year, the Banking Infrastructure Architecture Network. Become a member of BIAN, become part of the conversation. Don't just be people that have to listen to what's going on without having an opportunity to put some ideas across. And then I think the last point, which is engage more around the discussion with the regulator. There's a shaping of this industry going on. It's not enough just again to sit on the sidelines and see what's happening from afar. Get involved. Get your technology teams involved, your innovation labs, your partner channel, your compliance and legal people so they feel comfortable from sort of day zero, that they're vested, that they're engaged with it, and do all those things correctly and you should be able to get the success that you need. And it's not that the banks need that success, it's most importantly the impact upon the bank's clients, whether they're retail or corporate, on their regulators who want to know that the industry is being well run, there's not going to be any more problems, and lastly for the investors who want to see that there's going to be a return driven by this new open banking world where data becomes the very lifeblood of banking. So interesting times, exciting times. Sibos has started to discuss that. I'm sure in a 12 months time we'll be much closer to PSD2's implementation. We can see as to how far the industry has come and how much it's got left to execute.
Alex, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.